Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your keeper, the Hairy Channel, and with me tonight, a fine panel. Let's see, I don't know why I had to think about that for a second. Sora Luna.
Good evening.
Serenity Star 13.
Hate us. You hate us. Hi, everyone.
Oh no, I don't hate you guys. I'm just a mess. DrFunctional.
I am the scientism, and you can trust me because I'm a doctor on YouTube.
That's right. And SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
Let's see. So this is we're back on the Minions channel. Yay! So
I missed home.
We're out of the gulag, so we're not broadcasting over on the Hairy Channel this evening. Well, it's a little complicated because we've got 2 community guideline strikes now. So moving forward, there's not going to be.
I just love
changes.
Mom and apple pie, don't you?
There aren't going to be
Biff.
too many major changes,
great.
but we're going to have. I mean, we've always been pretty careful about stuff. Like if we were talking about the jab, I would bring up a study, and oftentimes looking at the CDC's own data.
Yeah.
I don't think they can come after us for a lot of the kind of stuff we do, but I don't want to take too many chances with.
But that's the issue, Harry. Like, there's no clear guidelines to follow.
I know.
When they do,
what's the upside?
So let me finish my point here. The problem is it's not my channel we're talking about. It's like a whole bunch of people's channel. And I don't want to do anything accidentally or carelessly that ends up screwing things up for Quiz and Della and people who don't talk about this stuff. But I look at the plan for tonight's show. We cannot pretend that COVID doesn't exist. Almost 2/3 of the news is affected by it one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Old man Stinky Pants would not be president right now if it wasn't for COVID. The economy wouldn't be screwed up.
Hammer in chat says that one of the strikes will fall off in April.
I'm sorry?
One Ton Hammer in chat says that one of the strikes will fall off in April.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But
just in time for my birthday,
I just want to
get us 3 more.
I just want to reaffirm our commitment to making sure that when we do talk about stuff like that, it's actually important. It needs to be said, and that we're really careful about the way we say it. That we actually make sure we're talking about facts, not offering off that cuff opinions about whether we think chin diapers actually work or whatever. So as
I just
host,
love
part
that
of my
Dr. Fauci. He's
well, as host, part of my job is to basically stay on top of that kind of stuff because for the most part, the show kind of runs itself. You guys are great. I throw a topic out there and it's like throwing, chum in the waters with the piranhas. You guys are just on it. I can just sit back and watch the waters churn most of the time. But
my tongue is pure callous with how often I have to bite it.
I don't think there's going to be any huge changes, but it is one of those things where I might be more likely just to go, is this important enough that it's even worth the risk? And a lot of times the answer is no. And I think this comes at a great time because a lot of us are just tired of talking about this stuff. So a lot of stuff that might have made the cut before is not going to make the cut now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Please comment.
Well, this is the chilling of free speech. This is what that kind of censorship does. It really does. And it urges people like me who, I'm not strictly speaking a free speech absolutist, but I'm the next thing closest to it. And this is an example of how an authoritarian, source that controls a resource by threatening to cut off that resource to the people who want it, need it, whatever, who want to use that resource for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They limit what you can do or say, and they limit you not just by the sanctions that they directly bring on offending behavior, but on the threat of possible sanctions by keeping the guidelines of what is permissible to be said purposefully vague, which I believe they do. So for that reason, to intimidate you.
No, it's like when you've done something to annoy your partner, spouse, girlfriend, whatever, and they're mad at you and you don't know what set them off and they won't tell you. And you're just like,
If you can't figure it out, then I'm not going to help you.
I mean, it's clear that the system at YouTube is broken when the NHS's own video gets struck down by YouTube for medical misinformation.
Yeah.
Like, but those are the people who give out the medical information. Like, it just... Ugh.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that it's just one of those things where we were already being careful, and we're just going to keep being careful. And I think that for the sake of all of our sanity and the people listening, if it's not really important COVID stuff, we're not going to use COVID to fill time. You know, that's just not a thing. But if it's something important, I'm definitely going to tell you, or at the very least, I'll give you guys the link. You can go look at it yourself. And, you know, we might take the discussion over to my channel. We could do that. Or we could take it over to Skep's channel. That's totally an option.
Yep, totally.
You know, if we get into the habit of, you know, running the show and then at the end, sort of doing like Crowder does, and we'll put up a little thing of the Minions logo taking a leak on the YouTube logo. And then we'll skip over to my channel. We'll talk about whatever. But yeah, it's good to be back. Hopefully more of you were able to actually find us tonight. I do appreciate everybody making the effort to spread the word last time. And we actually got most people to come over and watch it on my channel, which makes me feel good because it shows people actually cared enough to, you know, to follow the links and stuff.
That made me very happy, seeing that, you know, I did take a little bit of a hit on views, but not bad. And most everybody who likes to watch the show found it and watched it. I'm happy.
Yeah. We genuinely appreciate it. I mean, we really do. It means a lot. It meant a lot to me, and it means a lot to Skep that people took the time to follow us over there. But we're back.
It really does.
We're back.
Yep.
And I think the first order of business... Oh, wait. Does anybody have anything they want to get off their chest before we get started?
Nah.
No. Diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle.
Sure.
I don't know why that came to mind.
Well, in terms of unscheduled stuff, there was a major eruption in the ocean out by Tonga. Have you guys been following this?
Yep.
Yeah, I understand a cow jumped over the moon as a result of it.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was some tawdry business about a dish running away with the spoon.
Yeah. Well,
you're just making me regret all of the nice things I said.
Children.
Hold on. Gosh, darn
it. Fighting back again, Harry.
All right.
There we go.
So, in terms of Central California, here's kind of a synopsis of basically what happened. You can see here in this image, this is from a Japanese weather satellite. Look at this freaking thing. This was a massive undersea.
Where this is. Understand where this
Tonga.
is. This is in Tonga. Okay, so if you went down to the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you would almost be to the northeastern coast of Australia. It's just out of frame on the left side.
Most people, the only thing they know about Tonga, and maybe they don't even know this, is that the .to extension on internet URLs is from Tonga. I think that's a big chunk of their national income, is the licensing money they get from .to internet.
And the taxes for about 1/3 of the offensive linemen in the NFL. This was huge guys there.
This was pretty amazing. So this little thing on the twatter. So this, what you're seeing here, this is Soquel Creek in Santa Cruz near where the ocean is. It's flowing backwards. That's not a thing that typically happens. Yeah. So here's
that's why they call
harbor.
It backwards.
Here's the harbor. This part is supposed to be the land part, not the water part. People's cars floating around. Things
Where is
generally
that, Harry?
flooded.
Where is that, Harry?
Santa Cruz Harbor.
I'm glad you left first, Sora.
And here's a surfer running for his life at Pleasure Point.
Oh, I know where that is.
Mistakes are made.
Yeah. Oopsie.
Run
away.
You're bored, you idiot.
Run away.
There's the other one just standing there. The other one who's still out in the water is just like, nope, I'm screwed. I'm going out.
Yeah, but I think of the things that happened, the one that amazes me the most, let's see if I can find this diagram, is they actually have an observatory in, okay, I don't have the thing handy, but they have an observatory in Alaska that monitors infrasound. on the planet. So, sound that's below the frequency that humans can usually hear. They actually, almost 7,000 miles away, registered in the audible spectrum the noise from this eruption in Alaska.
Cool.
Really?
Yeah.
They
kid
picked
you
up
not.
acoustics from really.
Yeah. They picked up audible acoustics of the eruption from Alaska, almost 7,000 miles away.
Do you know how much power you have to put into a wave to keep it going through air that far? My God.
I don't have it handy because this all happened after I put the show plan together. But there's a map that I saw showing the pressure wave. There was an overpressure wave of about 0.08 millimeters of mercury that moved across the United States from the west coast to the east coast, caused by this thing.
That's making it that for those of you interested, that is changing the air pressure.
Yes.
That's changing the air pressure locally of the atmosphere. That's astonishing. That is an amazing amount of power. It really is. I it's hard to put it into, I want to put it into atomic bombs or something, that people can relate to. But this is just fantastic. I mean, the Earth is enormous compared to us. And when it moves a little, it can do a lot of damage to us just with a little move.
And generally, when we think of celestial bodies that have a lot of power, we sometimes forget that the Earth's core is very powerful itself. Obviously not, on the same level as the sun, but
we couldn't survive except that the Earth is mostly finished moving. It's mostly settled in. If we were having the kind of movement that you see on some of the moons around Jupiter and Saturn, if we had those kind of, but life would never have evolved, very likely. So would it probably just would, those planets stay that way and likely don't evolve life because they are so hazardous to the building up of complex and inevitably fragile organic molecules.
Well, it's a different energy source. You might find things that are similar to the life forms that are on Earth near some of the thermal vents in the ocean, because anything that's moving in the Jovian in Jupiter's orbit, right? Those planets are moving through a powerful magnetic field. Anything that moves through there that has any sort of conduction. I know you're aware of it.
But here's the thing about it. They always call it, well, what about the thermal vents? Okay. Thermal vent life, that's not life that evolved because of thermal vents. Okay. That's life that moved close enough to the thermal vents because their predators couldn't keep up with them. They were the ones who survived being close to the thermal vents. But most of the heavy lifting of their evolution happened in much more hospitable climes than where they finally ended up. They're all kind of, if you ever talk to these one-celled animals around the thermal vents, they're all like, what the hell happened to the neighborhood? We used to live in a nice place. We got runoff. You know how what. And
then the differently abled grades moved in.
Yeah, exactly. So
don't
anyway,
don't want to be. The point is, there's different stuff.
My point is that's why I think that evolution of life of the kind that we think of is probably unlikely. Now, is there a Rumsfeldian stuff we don't know? We don't know. Absolutely, and there's the possibility of something, we never saw that coming, kind of evolution that we could discover, when we get out there. But you didn't want to talk about this, Harry.
I wanted there is a point that I wanted to make about regarding what you said earlier, which is about the Earth. The Earth, the molten core, it isn't the movement through the sun's magnetic field that keeps that molten. It's the decay of transuranic elements, basically
That's
radioactive
exactly
decay
right.
of heavy elements.
Yep.
So what the little bit of stuff that was left over from a supernova is the only thing that's basically keeping all that stuff melted, but it's got a nice little jacket, you know, and it's there, and it has leftover heat from when the planet was formed as well, because originally it was just a big nasty melted ball of stuff. So between the leftover heat, the gravitational force of things compressing down on the stuff in the center, and the decay of the heavy elements that are in the core, that gives us that powerhouse, that generation. That's what generates the dynamo of the magnetic field. And all of that lava moving around every now and then, it's a pimple pop. And
It is.
shit happens. You know, that's all
right.
it really is.
It's
Y'all
a
just
small
been
price to
science.
pay for the. It's a small price to pay for the magnetic field that keeps our atmosphere intact.
I mean, the one that keeps our atmosphere from blowing clean off in the solar wind.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're going to terraform Mars because reasons. No, you're not going to terraform
no,
Mars.
you're not.
You're not going to do
Negative.
any such thing. You might build a dome, but that's not the same thing as terraforming Mars. You might as well be in Vegas.
Right. Exactly.
Anyway, let's see. I think the first order of business is
that's
to taunt function. That's usually the way this works.
But I'm the
are you awake? Okay.
Oh yeah. I saw
KFC
it.
adds vegan fried chicken to the menu. Finally, here's where to
So
get
now
it.
you can have
I
your
love this so
your
much.
vegan fried chicken with your meat carrots.
They look like breaded pucks.
No, but
do
this
they have-
isn't. The merit is way better than this stuff. Don't even. I would much rather have a merit than a vegan tender.
Oh yeah.
I want both.
Do they have the picture of the like cross section of the nugget? Because that is truly just.
I want the merit so much more now. Just to eat it in front of the vegans eating this.
No, sadly
Oh,
they
they
don't
don't have it?
have.
It
They don't
basically
have it.
there's no texture, no color. It's
Ugh.
just this,
Oh, are you
vaguely
talking about where
meat-like bleached
they're
up
broken
things.
in half?
Yeah,
the
the
ones that-
cross
yeah,
section where you see the actual quote unquote.
And it's kind of this gray, slithery looking thing. Oh, it's horrible.
no texture, no color, and the patties are perfectly formed. I mean, obviously because it's manufactured, but that's not how food should look.
Yeah,
Like
food isn't supposed to look like Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah, bleached Tootsie Rolls.
So
Excuse me.
I mean, if you really need your KFC fix and you're a vegan, like, wait, what? And I can't blame them for trying to expand their markets, but just ew, stop it.
Well, I was going to talk about that lying whore Kirby and one of her very few ingredient recipes, but she actually used the oven this time. So I decided to give her a break this week from our
You might
ongoing
actually learn
abuse.
something good.
Well, she actually cooked
See how
something,
it is.
and then
you're just after those rage clicks, Harry.
yeah, that was the thing that when I was a little kid, I thought, man, I wish I could just get people riled up on the internet when I grow up.
Harry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Were we going to talk about the synagogue thing at all?
I'm happy to talk about it, but you're going to
Well,
have to
no,
provide the link. It happens after I put the show together, so I'm happy to talk about it if you want to.
Mhm.
Well, no, I just wanted to say it real quick. The hostages have been rescued and the situation's over.
Okay.
yay!
So,
Thank goodness.
in case anybody was wondering, so everyone's been gotten out. They
Will
don't
there
have
be any
other-
need for a trial?
That's what I'm trying to find out because it's a YouTube video, so I'm trying to find it.
All right. Well, just let us know when you find
Yeah.
out.
All hostages are safe following a 12-hour stand. The congregation of Beth Israel Synagogue in Colleyville, Texas. Local police say blah 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 blah. The remaining hostages were released around 9:15, about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
Police are expected to address media shortly, and it looks like they're taking somebody. The suspect in the hostage situation is dead. Okay. Colleyville police confirmed at a news conference on Saturday night after all the hostages were released. It doesn't say if it was suicide or a righteous shot.
Yeah, because that's what we want to know. After we find out that everybody's safe, the next thought is, okay, what happened to this idiot?
How did he die?
How did he die?
And, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yay.
Sorry, I missed all that. I was just thinking of chicken.
Yay. You know, I
Fried
actually,
chicken.
I sort of, I used to work with a guy, and this guy was a mentor to me. He's been a friend, and you know, it's one of these things where about every 3 or 4 years, we contact each other and say, hey, let's get together. And you know, a couple of times we've gone out to eat, but you know, it's never the same after you know, when you're not working for somebody anymore. But we kind of kept up over all the years. And he went to that synagogue, and I had lost track with him. It'd been a couple of years since we'd exchanged like Christmas, Hanukkah greetings. And he'd actually moved to Florida. So I was all fretted up. I thought he was still going there. I thought he might be in there. He'd already moved to Florida. And but it did lead me to contact him today. And we had a nice little exchange. He got on my case for not keeping up. Of course, he didn't either. But you know, anyway, this
Wojciech, you never call, you never write. What's going on?
This guy's an interesting guy. He's the only person I know who has as many children as Jenna has. He has 4 of his own and like 26 or 30 adopted kids, and they're full blood adopted. I mean, they are really legally adopted his kids. He made millions of dollars in the insurance business and just spreads it around. So yeah, interesting.
Don't you know that's a mitzvah? Hey. Well, that's good.
He's not really
really
like
appreciate
that.
people like that who, you know, they prospered in life in some manner or another, and then they pay that forward to the next generation, even though
this guy is all about that. This guy, probably as much any single person, this guy is one of my leading lights in terms of people who inform my philosophy of life. He's truly, in my eyes, a great man. And I'm just so glad.
Would never.
I'm sorry, what?
He obviously would never do something like rob a train of Amazon packages.
Nice segue.
No, he wouldn't.
I was going to go with, well, if his kids are wondering what their Christmas gifts are.
Yeah. I'm
Hanukkah.
sorry. I will desist from derailing.
No, it's okay.
Oh,
but this
this thing is really worrisome.
Yeah. So basically, down in LA, along the tracks, along with all the other crap that's in LA because of homeless people and problems, there are bunches and bunches of boxes that were stolen out of trains.
Oh, this is so.
Some of the boxes are packages from companies like UPS, Amazon, and FedEx. Union Pacific, one of the country's largest railroad companies, said it may avoid operating in Los Angeles County following the spike in thefts. Well, let's think about this for a moment. What else is in Los Angeles County that needs train service? The Port of LA. It just keeps getting worse, but the supply chain's fine. It's mostly because of the greed of consumers that there are supply chain issues. And it certainly doesn't have anything to do with the fact that people are breaking into trains, stealing the packages, taking the good stuff, and leaving the rest of it next to the side of the road. You can't see it too clearly, but you can see the little Amazon arrow, right there on this box. This is just stuff that never made it there because people are making it impossible to do business down.
Well, it's like
Now,
the thing. It's like, but the truckers who are already having to do 24/7 shit like themselves, but they're having to keep the trucks rolling into the port 24/7, are now going to have to drive farther to get to the place where Union Pacific will actually take the packages on. Like, this is going to go back to the way it used to be with trains, where not Pinkerton specifically, but a new version of the Pinkertons will have to, like, private security will have to come in, and then people start getting red lighted, and it's not going to be pretty if people start getting red lighted.
Yeah.
For those who do not know what red lighting is literally they wait till the train is moving fast enough, and then they throw you off of it. That is red lighting.
Yeah, that's what's called a teachable moment.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're back to the wild, wild west days of robbing trains.
Right.
Just anecdotally, I know, and there were some news stories I read about this over the course of the last 2 years, but there was obviously across Canada and the United States an uptick in package thefts, porch pirates, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot more people are ordering a lot more stuff, and I know just anecdotally, I had to get on my building's management because I know personally, like, people would just walk off with packages because they were, just left inside the lobby. And how hard is it to get into, somebody's lobby of a building? You just wait for somebody to just walk in or whatever. And I had to get on their butts to like install cameras and stuff because I ordered an ultrasonic cleaner, which is a pretty expensive piece of machinery, and somebody walked off with it. Even though the Amazon tracking is pretty good, it's pretty quick. Like, oh, I got my package 3 hours ago. I go down, there's no package. It's like, yeah, these people, as you can see with the spike in the railway robberies here in California, criminals have wisened up and been like, okay, if we're gonna do this, it can't just be you. That's why it's not just coincidental. This is stuff that's targeted, that's planned, that people wait for, and just take advantage of the system, and then pile onto an already struggling infrastructure of, stuff comes in the port, gets on the trains and planes and automobiles, gets shipped out all across the country, all across the nation, the continent. If we're being fair, I really hope one of your other Western major coastal cities is going to invest in some infrastructure into bigger ports or something. Because if this doesn't,
I've got a question. I've got a question about
something doesn't happen in LA. Somebody else needs to start picking up some of that slack and profiting off it.
Go ahead, Skep.
I have a question about this. How much? What percentage? What dollar percentage? Or I guess you'd have to do it that way. What estimated dollar percentage of the things that are coming in are being stolen? Are we talking about a 1/1000th of a percent problem? Are we talking about a 1% problem, a 10% problem? What kind of problem are we talking about here? What is the scale of this?
Well, we don't have good numbers here except for this little bit here following. It says the Union Pacific said last month in a letter to the LA District Attorney that it saw a 160% year-over-year increase in theft in LA County. Now, 160% of nothing is basically nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. If they didn't have a big problem before, they still don't.
But they go on to say, Union Pacific said in its letter that the last 3 months of the year, it made over 100 arrests of active criminals vandalizing our train in partnership with the LA Police Department and Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. But the Union Pacific, which has its own police department with jurisdiction over the 32,000 miles of track it owns, said that even as it has expanded its security resources and partnered more closely with local law enforcement, the problem isn't going away. After being arrested, individuals are released from custody within 24 hours. Now, you go back to here. This is Gascon. Union Pacific said in the letter, let's see, the company claims that a December 2020 special directive issued by District Attorney George Gascon that changed how low-level offenses are prosecuted has contributed to the uptick. Now, this is more of this bullshit they're getting into. The Babylon Bee, or excuse me, not the Babylon Bee, has a great little piece about what's going on in New York. Great news, criminals New York City is downgrading armed robbery to petty larceny and reducing the accompanying prison sentence by 96%.
Good.
There's a bit of a caveat to that, though, in that I'm not defending it. I'm just, want to get the facts that it's armed things like armed robbery in which the whatever legal body deems that it wasn't with intent to harm, whatever that may mean as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's the way in which the gun is used. If you simply had the gun open carry on your waist, what they're saying is that it's not an implied threat, and that it shouldn't be factored into the sentencing for the crime. Now, if somebody,
are there hard and fast standards set for that, Harry, or is that speculation?
I don't know what the standards are for that. I know enough to know that I don't know what the legal test is for something like that. Yeah. I do know, however, that if I was to just pick up a gun and walk into a mall, people would be concerned about this. And these liberals are usually very concerned about people open carrying and doing other stuff. But when a criminal does it in the commission of a crime, that's okay. that seems to be just fine. It's the double standard that I think I can clearly identify. I don't know. Do you know what the legal test is for this?
I don't think there is one, and I think it's completely to the discretion of the adjudicating authority, probably very likely in the hands of the court, because that's where everything ends up.
Right.
The other thing, and for some, depending on their politics, that may be something, any defendant that does not have white skin, they're not really trying to hurt anybody. Even if they shot somebody, that may have been accidental, because they didn't really want to shoot anybody when they went in there to rob the place. It just worked out that way, and they really had no choice. It's not really even their fault. If you want to think about it, it's the victim's fault for being there to be shot in the first place.
Yeah.
So, when you look at it that way, you can appreciate, the other side of this. Ariel Atkins, the BLM organizer, I'm going to just read a one-sentence quote from her. "I don't care if someone decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike store, because that makes sure that person eats. That makes sure that person has clothes, and this is reparations. Anything they wanted to take, they can take, because businesses have insurance." As long as that is the attitude among the public, particularly the thieving public, that portion of the public that is kind of ambivalent about the wrongness of thieving, it's only wrong if you get caught. As long as that remains the status quo, there's going to be no deterrent for this. There's no reason not to steal if there's no downside. Sorry about the dogs.
Exactly. If you're going to rob the train, and then you're going to be, if they do catch you, which they probably won't, and you're going to basically be back out on the street 24 hours later.
It's basically, it sounds exactly like here, to be honest. Someone does a crime. It turns out they're known to the local police, and they get caught. They give a promise that they'll appear in 24 hours, and in that time frame, they commit a bunch more crimes and disappear. We have a catch and release system here. So have fun with that, you guys. It's great.
Yes.
Well, in a previous episode,
there really is another side to this, and it's one that you don't see talked about a lot, but that is the fact that sentencing and courts and arresting officers and so forth, they really aren't that much of a deterrent to crime. No one who commits a crime does so with the idea that they're going to be caught. And they may take precautions to make sure they're not caught, but inevitably, because they think those precautions are sufficient, they will commit the crime. Mm-hmm. It's not the threat of sanction that is a deterrent to these people. It does not deter them, because they either don't understand, how good the police can be, and they are very good at some parts of their job, how good and effective they can be. It's because it's either that they don't understand what the police can do and will do if they go ahead with their plan, or it's that they've already executed this plan and it's worked a few times and they'll continue to do that. What these laws do is just expand the headroom, basically, for the criminals to have a somewhat easier time of it. But as a general psychological movement, in the overall social psychological direction of this is extremely unhealthy, because it almost encourages crime by saying that we're kind of okay with this. And, the guys with the big jobs and the big titles and everything else are kind of okay with this. And look at this. They're implementing catch and release. It pays to sneak in the country, pays to steal their stuff. And you have people like Ariel Atkins coming out and saying, yes, it is okay to steal. Stealing is good. It's reparations. It's, you pay back for the slavery, for all the slaves we've owned.
So yeah, I'm sure all those black business owners that had their shops burned to the ground will agree.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought up the psychological aspect of it, Skep, because crime, like any risky behavior, is all about risk and reward for, less harmful, non-theft, like risk-seeking activity. It's usually about that endorphin dump. Here, it's about a monetary return. Is the risk worth the reward? And if there's no risk or almost no little risk, then yes, it not only inspires people who are already living that life to be more ostentatious in their behavior, but it also shows people who might have been having that internal monologue of risk versus reward going, well, there's no risk anymore. So yeah, I'm just going to knock over that Gucci shop with the 12 friends I know who are going to rob that place. The risk is almost nil, and I could come away with a couple grand in my pocket once we fence this stuff. I'm all in. And then that just, it spreads like wildfire. And that's why tough on crime policies of the 80s and 90s in some of these locations worked really well. In the 90s, New York was actually a safe place to visit and walk around. I went into Central Park at 3 o'clock in the morning. No thought of risk to my life, because I knew I could look across and see that there's a couple of foot patrollers. There's a couple boys in blue just, walking through the park, just making sure. I knew that it was safe. Now, 10 years previous, I would have never done that, because little white boy, 3 a.m. Central Park, are you crazy? No, I didn't want to be riddled with bullets. But it's that risk reward behavior that these policies are certainly, like New York, LA, Chicago, that it's certainly not only inspiring the current criminal, but a new breed of criminal.
Well, you already know from previous shows my opinion of this. We talked about about basically people who were brought in on murder charges that they let loose, who went off and killed people after they'd been released, before they'd ever stood trial. There were over 150 people who died over several years based on that policy in Texas. One of the red states, barely, but still red, and that happened there. And I also generally agree with broken windows policing. It's not just punishing the crimes, it's the whole, like you said, attitude about crime. I am totally in favor of building as many prisons possible if we have to basically make a statement for a generation. Because I'm just done with this. And it's not serving anybody any good. This is like a cancer in the communities that are allowing this stuff to happen.
It seems almost deliberate, but
well, there's a lot of kids that are growing up without their fathers, and if they do have their fathers, they're seeing, bad influences. Mom is shoplifting, and it's just all being trivialized. Somebody like Cardi B can go out and talk about how she used to drug when she was turning trick. Was it Cardi B? I apologize, Cardi.
It was Cardi B.
Yeah, that she would basically drug men and steal money from them when she was turning tricks. And somehow that's okay because it's some sort of empowerment thing. No, it's not okay. It's not okay at all. But yeah, I'm becoming increasingly less tolerant of all this horse shit, because I used to think it was wrong to lock up huge parts of our population. Maybe if we just do it temporarily, we might get these things back under control. Because the longer we let this go, the harder the corrective action is going to have to be.
You're not wrong. That's why I have, and I'm serious about this, I have maintained for a long time that temporary incarceration followed by euthanization is appropriate for virtually everybody who is in maximum security lockup right now. If we nuked all these homies, in one day, we would save a lot of money. We could close the prisons. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes on. We're essentially operating hellholes, and I don't really have a problem
for money.
I really don't have a problem with euthanizing some guy who's robbed 3 banks, and as soon as he gets out, is going to rob another bank. I mean,
and potentially kill somebody in the process. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You choose not to be a part of this life. Either do that or have a Coventry, or give them the choice of going to Coventry or being euthanized. The smart ones will take euthanization.
Well,
I think we should bring back.
Do you know what I mean when I say go to Coventry? Does everybody know what that means?
I was
There'll
going
be
to
a test.
ask you. I wasn't
Okay, going
sure
to
what you
Coventry
meant.
harkens back to a story by Robert A. Heinlein, where there was a part of the United States, it was probably the state of Nevada, was bounded by a force field. If you touch this force field, you're instantly zapped. You're done. And inside that state, there are no laws. And if you cannot live in society, you prove yourself over and over, you either can be euthanized or you can go to Coventry. And they make a hole in the force field. You walk through, and whatever happens, happens. Wyo, mofo. And we could do that with an island. But believe me, it wouldn't be too hard to have the Navy blockaded. Blockades are easy. It's great duty, by the way. Boring, but you like boring when you're at sea.
Well, I think if we're going to have science fiction justice, why don't we also bring back, was it Why Johnny Can't Speed by Alan Dean Foster?
This is not a bit of this is science fiction. All of this is doable.
Well, the force field is science fiction.
Escape from
No,
LA.
I'm not saying the force field. The force field was a Heinlein story. We don't need a force
Right.
field. We can use the ocean as a force field.
Yeah, an island surrounded by hungry sharks with lasers will do the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand the principle of basically exiling people who can't function in society somewhere else.
I know you do.
There is a counter argument here which is missing because I don't know what it is. I would assume that somebody who knows more about this than I would could talk about what are the percentage of people that come out of federal prison rehabilitated and don't go back. I don't know what the recidivism rate is. Maybe it's possible that we're just sweeping away a bunch of people. Or maybe
it's enormously high.
Maybe if you go in once, you're going to be going back almost guaranteed. And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, you have to look. Well, anyway, go ahead.
I kind of disagree with you, Skep. I don't think we should just let them have their life back, and whatever happens. I think we should put them to work for the greater good. They've obviously are so far gone they cannot live in a civilized society. So let's let them have one last contribution from their eventual demise and reopen the gladiator pits. Let's have these people duke it out. We can sell the pay-per-views, and all the proceeds can go to gender studies in India.
I'm not trying to coerce society any more than it already is. I really am trying to do something to improve it. I'm not trying to make a joke here.
Well, my point is
serious about this. And having gladiators hurt each other and torture each other on TV for the entertainment of inevitably children probably is not wise.
I'm not joking, Skep. I'm serious. I totally am on board with you in saying there are some people who are so far gone they cannot be they cannot be in our society. And we should not have them draining financially and resourcefully from our system when they're that far gone. And we don't need force fields or put them on an island like the Australian experiment worked so well. But let's have them fight it back out in the Grand Coliseum. Let's build one. I'm not joking, Harry. It might sound funny, but I'm not joking.
We're solving a lot of the world's problems. I want to get back some of the time that we are hemorrhaging. There's this article from the Toronto. It's okay. We're gonna fix this. The Toronto Sun.
Mm-hmm.
The short version of this is that because somebody in this family, I guess the kid who's getting leukemia treatment, hasn't gotten a COVID vaccine, they're kicking them out of the Ronald McDonald House?
No, the parents their religion is against the vaccine, or they claim they are religious and they don't want to get the vaccine. So the kids are too young to get the vaccine anyway, but the parents were given 1 month to get vaccinated and they said nope. And so because the Ronald McDonald House has implemented a new rule saying that everyone who's staying there who can be vaccinated must be vaccinated, or else they will be asked to leave. And this is the rule has just been implemented this past week or so, I think.
Well, there is, I can't remember which vaccine it is, and I don't think it particularly matters, but I know one of them, there was some fetal cell tissue lines pre-existing that were used as part of the development. So people have said, you can't use this one. And then there's other people who just don't believe in vaccines at all, because it's a full-on religious saying like you don't get to violate the what?
They're from Kelowna. I don't know. The people are a bit weird there. They're
Well, I'm
from
just saying there's
I
two
love
different
the Kelownese. I've spent some time in Kelowna. I love
but there's
that place.
there's two
It's
groups
a
of
weird
people,
place.
right? There's two groups. Now, if it's the first group, you just offer them one of the other vaccines that wasn't developed using that stuff, and that
Yeah.
exemption goes away. But if they really
it doesn't
are
go
like
into detail of which they
one
are.
of those other religious sects, so essentially they're saying there is no religious exemption from this vaccine, and if you don't get it, then you and your leukemia-ridden child can basically be kicked out. Because that's what compassion looks like.
Well, they're moving into the Easter Seals place next week, so they did find another place to stay.
Yeah, because
Well,
of the
they're
stories were-
here for their son, but
Yeah.
it's
stories went
stupid.
viral and people were outraged. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Functional. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, yeah, they managed to find the Easter seals thing because there was just such an outrage pouring in from the internet, from like across the globe, going, "What the hell is wrong?" And obviously, good on them. They're helping somebody in need who needs it, but also, it's good press.
Yeah, and your opinion on what's going on, vaccines aside, this is a stupid move. The whole point of Ronald McDonald House is to allow the parents of people of children, getting treatment at BC Children's Hospital, usually, unfortunately, pretty bad and pretty bad health, to stay in a place where they don't have to pay, because most people cannot afford to rent out an Airbnb for the next 6 weeks that their kid is in chemo or something like that, right? So they stay at Ronald McDonald, and this is weird, especially that they're now implementing it. Why didn't they start implementing it a year and a half ago? Or
well, I might
why now?
I might get us into trouble if I answer that question. So why don't we just leave that as an exercise for the listener? Yeah, why now? I wonder what has changed now.
Like Sora said, though, these again, you got to think of the geography of Canada. We're a lot more sprawled out. We're a lot more dispersed, and these big city centers are all in the southern parts for the most part, next to the border, next to major hubs. And those are usually where the big hospitals that can deal with things like leukemia and other very serious illnesses.
BC Children's is literally the only children's hospital. Let me double check. Go ahead. Sorry.
In BC, probably. But again, to my point, one major hospital that generally can deal with these level of illnesses for an entire province is these types of programs like RM. Ronald McDonald House and the Easter Seals program, and I think Archer Dimes does as well. The importance of these programs for families like this, because like you said, nobody's going to be able. A lot of people cannot afford a 6-week, 8-week stay in the big city hotel, even the cheap ones, or an Airbnb or something. Like the logistics alone are crazy. Never mind being able to afford it. So.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I am going to move on to the next thing. Let's see. So, in a nutshell, the Queen basically took away all of Prince Andrew's princely things. His medals, his titles, his everything. He is basically a common citizen at this point. So, he's basically been swept up in the whole Epstein thing. And there's one of the people who was on Fantasy Pedo Island has basically sued him. And he's highly incentivized to basically settle out of court. He's not getting any cover from the Queen at this point. Or being a royal is not going to protect him from any sort of prosecution. So I have a feeling he's going to be writing a lovely check for these people. Unless, of course, their real goal is not money, but to make him really hurt. And they're in a position to do it to him. Because public opinion is not looking good for Andrew right now.
Also,
he's going to be martyred for their little secret.
Well, hold on. What were you going to say, Serenity?
Well, it's like, is he part of the family that gets money from having the title?
Not anymore. He's got plenty of money.
Well, I know, but the thing is, like, even having plenty of money, having some kind of income at some point is still nice. But yeah, he's kind of. I don't like the fact that it took the royal family to decide to do this long, but it's better late than never. I don't know.
Well, if the queen basically did this, it in terms of the optics, it looks really bad for him. Right? I mean, it's possibly to the point where if there was a trial, it might even seem prejudicial, but he's probably going to have to give up a small chunk of his personal fortune to get out from under this. I don't think there's a big move to criminally prosecute him, but the civil action that's being taken against him, they've got him by the short and curlies.
Well, I mean, it should kind of hurt him more than that, but I do like the fact that he has to start bowing.
Yeah, well,
now.
I'm not. Well, he'd have to bow to the queen anyway, but I mean, presumption of innocence is one thing, but I'm just saying that, you know, from the outside as an observer, it looks pretty bad for him right now.
Oh yeah.
And as you're right, and he did lose his ongoing income. Because it used to just be, oh, here, have a check. And if you were an earl or up, I think it's earls and up, they got it.
$249,000, £249,000 per year was his royal pension. He lost that. He also lost a £20,000 per year pension that he got from the Navy.
Yep.
So he's lost that. He gets to keep the $15 million property, or actually the proceeds from the property he just sold for $15 million. Sounds like the fellow's raising some cash. Wonder why. But basically, he is out of luck with respect to his royal income is gone.
Well, also marketing is a big part of it. And one of the things you can do is you essentially lend your name and your title to some sort of endeavor in exchange for compensation.
Yeah,
we would never do that
with... No excuses, Jeans is not hiring. So
it would I remember those. That was a long time. That was a good joke, Skep. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm being abused now. I said all rushes back to me. No excuses, Jeans. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of this sort of thing where come cut the ribbon at our new car lot, that kind of thing, and endorsements and testimonials, all of that stuff just goes away because he can't use that title anymore because he doesn't have it. So that source of income has also been cut off. It's like a professional athlete. They make money from their contract and they also make money for endorsements and stuff.
Oh,
and sometimes the endorsements and stuff are more than the contract.
He'll still be able to get on Oprah.
Well, he's probably never going to go into a pub and have to buy his own drinks. But other than that, I think the gravy train kind of ground to a halt. And
well, I mean,
didn't. Go ahead.
Considering how the Brits are not very keen on him because of this, like the British common people. So I don't think he's going to have now he can still move amongst some of the elites because we know some of the elites take practice upon the same things he does, but for the most part, for public facing, they cannot. So he's in a very bad position. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but yeah, he's not in a very good position right now.
Maybe he should just identify as being Asian in quotes and move to Rotherham. He'd be accepted as a pedo there, because the police are kind of hands off about that sort of thing still.
Or he can do what a lot of dead title Brits do, who have no money and just kind of sell it to China.
Yeah.
I kind of think he's dead to rights. He's the martyr for the secret, because it just seems too obvious that it's damage control.
Well, yeah, by removing him from the royals, one of the other things it does is it takes a whole bunch of money that the people who are suing him might be going after out of reach. It's like when you have a multinational company and there's some sort of faulty product and it's like immediately, it's like, oh, well, that subdivision is now its own company and has nothing to do with any of the other companies. So if you're going after the money, all you can do is go after this tiny little pile of money over there. He's just become a little tiny pile of money instead of a part of a big pile of money.
Well, this is similar to what Sora said about the Ronald McDonald House thing. It's like, why now? Like this could have been done 6 months ago. This could have been done a year ago. Why are they doing it now?
Because Maxwell was found guilty.
I still
Yeah.
like.
I mean, yeah.
They're trying to see whether or not, like, hoping that she wants to stay alive so she doesn't say anything, like releasing names, but in the event she decides to blab and get sad, they have to preemptively damage control, like you guys were saying.
You don't want to be the next Domino, Serenity. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep us moving because, like I said, got to make up a little bit of time. Now, I'm actually really pissed off about this, and I genuinely don't understand. This might be a question for Skep. Are you still with me, Skep?
I am here.
Okay.
I am here.
So, did you get a chance to look at this one? Student loan processor Navient required to cancel 1.7 billion in student loans.
Yep, this is really interesting.
This is fascinating to me because essentially what this article says is that Navient gave unsecured, these are not government secured student loans. These were personal loans given to students who were applying for loans. And Navient supposedly engaged in some sort of predatory practice by giving money to people who had there's no reasonable expectation they would ever be able to pay it back. Therefore, Navient is having to forgive these loans. I'm kind of at a loss. I don't understand this. Maybe you can explain this to me.
You have to understand the loan business, first of all. And I promise not to get too long-winded, but you got to understand what Navient does. Navient is what they call a loan servicing agency. Now, they place some of the loans, but by far, when they place a loan, they sell the loan and keep the servicing. Oops, sorry, I just kicked my mic. They sell the loan and keep the servicing. So, because the servicing is where all the money is. That's where you got to hire a bunch of people, but it's just a tremendous amount of money. You basically have a money printing press when you go into the loan servicing business, but you have to be of a certain size. So the pressure's on in a place like Navient to, for those loan officers to go out and close loans, put our capital to work. We're raising money. We got to get it out there. We got to get it loaned out to these guys. So that they loaned it to a bunch of kids who, come from diminished circumstances and to fund sociology degrees and, I'm sorry, but gender studies and, degrees that don't have much of a direct impact in getting you a good job, starting a career outside of college, outside of academia, outside of teaching. So we just have all the gender studies professors we need right now. So you have a bunch of people who were getting out of college and they had no way of repaying the loan. And so what Navient gets presented with is they probably, I suspect that there's a class action lawsuit behind it. I didn't research it enough to know the answer to that. And sometimes you can't know the answer to that, particularly when kids are concerned. But there's probably a class action suit or some sort of legal thing behind this that is saying, hey, you acted irresponsibly. You didn't show due diligence in evaluating the loan candidates as being loan worthy, as being, having a reasonable possibility of paying back the loan. Therefore, too bad you gave them the money, but this is a bad contract, and we are nullifying the contract. And I suspect that's how this is being done. When the contract is null and void, Navient has to walk away from the loan, and that's I noticed that it was a subtle thing. So this was done under the auspices of a court, where Navient came out and said that it did not violate the law. Well, it certainly violated regulations that are a part of the law in terms of evaluating loan candidates, And so anyway, it was sitting there faced with a bunch of dead loans. It wanted to go after these people and get what money it could from them. and then they got sued probably by a bunch of them. That's why I think it tends to be a class action lawsuit. That's the recourse of poor people in America is a class action lawsuit. You don't have much hope of getting any payback, but at least you can help be a part of a force to correct the behavior. And they went after Navient as having acted irresponsibly. That's what I think probably happened here.
Well, in the article it says 39 states, and that makes me think that it was like the consumer bureaus of these states bringing action against Navient on their behalf. Sorry, Serenity, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say, Serenity?
Well, it was like it is 39 states. My state being one of them. Took it to them, and it's either reimbursement. I forget how much it was. Most of them are in California that are getting the payback. I think it was 66,000 some odd people who are getting their loans canceled. 27,000, I think. Are in
we
California.
produce some of the finest quality unemployable graduates.
Well, I actually know someone who may get something from this, and they never even made a college degree, so that should tell you something. But they didn't even get no. I'm going to stop. But anyway, like it was basically that was part of the terms for the ending of the lawsuit was that Navient had to cancel all of the student loan debt or reimburse, and they got to say that what they did was not illegal. That was the deal of the settlement, basically.
Right. For $1.7 billion of loans being written off, they basically get to clear their books of this debt, right?
Yep.
That's good. They're going to write it off as a loss, of course.
Oh yeah.
So this is this will be part of their taxes. And they can do that. That's totally fine. They can write it off as a loss. And these people, I would think that if these were private loans, not government secured ones, that the debt would have just been ordinary debt, and that they could have, in theory, declared bankruptcy to get out from under it, as opposed to the double secret debt that you get that's right up there with owing money to the IRS, which you get with regular student loans, the ones that are government secured. But this is fine. I don't like this idea that it's somehow incumbent upon the lender to make sure that the borrower has to pay it back. I understand the words that came out of Skep's mouth about it being an invalid contract. I understand that in the front, the front part of my brain, the part with all the gray matter that's supposed to be the rational part, understands. But the part of my brain that wants to just kick people in the nuts for being assholes thinks that this is kind of terrible. I don't like people getting away with something like this because they're adults. They should know not to borrow money they can't pay back.
In the answer to the bankruptcy thing, sorry.
And Skep next.
Yeah. The bankruptcy code allows for private student loans to be discharged in bankruptcy only if borrowers can meet the undue hardship standard. And that's private. Sorry, Skep, go for it.
Yeah, go.
There's probably fault on both sides here. But I really do feel like most of it is probably on Navient's part, actually. You have people who, I want to go to college. Navient comes and says, want to go to college? We've got just what you need. We'll take care of the money part. You just study hard, get that, racial equity degree, and go out there and, make your mark in the world. And, I think they probably did overextend themselves. Any big organization like that, it's very hard to keep people who are incented by commission to not cut corners when it comes to placing loan. These loan officers, I've known a few loan officers. I've known probably 30 or 40 loan officers in my life. I haven't worked for Colonial Savings. These guys are rabid to close loans. They'll do anything to close loans. They literally will do anything to close a loan. And I do mean anything. Yeah, that too. And they are so much of their income is based on commission, and they can make a lot of money. A good loan officer can make $200,000-$300,000 a year in the home ownership market. And something like this, it's kind of the Wild West. I don't know what the incomes were like, but I suspect they were quite high. That's when you see guys really willing to, bend the rules, and they're just trying to get their numbers up. And in doing that, they bent too many of the rules. They promised too much. And there was a willing, of people hearing what they wanted to hear, came in and didn't think about the consequences. We'll figure that out mañana. We'll figure that out someday. We'll figure out a way to pay that back someday. It sounds like a lot, but I'll be making money over the course of my life. We'll get it done. And then they get out of college, or they, fail out of college, and they've still got this big debt, and they can't make any money. And so they go, hey, I got screwed. It's not as rosy as Navient promised me it would be. I do think that's probably what's going on here. There's a little bit of justice happening here.
And you also got to remember, there's been almost in combination with what you've been saying, Skep, there's also been the almost eradication of any kind of education in the public system of home economics, like actual money handling, finances, personal finances. It doesn't have to be anything advanced, just like, money in, money out, how to balance your own home checkbook. And that's all but been eliminated from the education system. So when you put, there can't be informed consent if somebody's completely in the dark of these things. These
yeah.
Just
I understood the rule. I understood the rule of 72 when I was in the 10th grade. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Compounding interest was not a mystery to me, and it shouldn't be mysteries to anybody who can do multiplication and division.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of seeing what's really there as opposed to seeing what you want to see. And I think some people were seeing what they wanted to see, and the Navient side where they were doing what they wanted to do, and those two impulses combined into a disaster, and this is the result.
Yeah. Well, this might explain math. The new core curriculum for students makes sure that they're essentially mathematically illiterate by divorcing the act of arithmetic from the concepts behind it. Just get this piece of paper and just start drawing matrices and just drawing lines through things, and it's like, no, I mean, there's nothing intuitive about it, but by the time you get through doing that, plus getting rid of real money and giving everybody a debit card, so you don't even have a sense of money having any kind of substance or volume. You don't know what a stack of $20 bills looks like, right? It all just becomes funny money. So interest, funny money, who cares?
Yeah, that's very
as long
true.
as the card still works, doesn't matter.
As my granddaughter's 4th grade teacher told me, long division done the way you're training your grandchildren to do it is a primitive way to do arithmetic.
Jesus Christ.
And I got told not to do that.
Did you tell her to go jump off a cliff?
No, I decided that was a fight that was not worth having because the victims would be my grandchildren.
So we're presented with a natural segue at this point. So there's two stories. We can do these both pretty quickly because the bottom line is school is a place that nobody wants to be. Now, the Chicago teachers decided to use COVID safety as a bargaining chip to say, no, we really feel like distance learning might be the right way to go about this. Now, at the same time, in New York, a bunch of students walked out going, I don't know about going to school. We think distance learning might be a good thing. We don't feel entirely safe here. Now, all I can basically gather from this is that both the teachers and the students would just as soon stay home and not bother with this whole charade of showing up and being taught the math that Skep was told was more advanced than his math. Is it just the point that everybody is just has just been infantilized to the point where they just want to be left alone and stay home and just have money get mailed to them?
Yes.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really much that we need to discuss here except that society is suffering from a really bad cancer, and I think scaring the crap out of people to get them to comply just made it much, much, much worse.
I mean, I can see that as a valid argument for children because children are impressionable. But for the fucking teachers, no, they're not scared. They're just opportunistic. Not all, but the ones doing this shit are opportunistic assholes. They have no business being in these positions if they're not there to do the job.
Yeah, well, we've talked about things like charter schools and private schools in the past. And part of making public schools better, if we're going to save them at all, is to give them competition, to force them to become better. The teachers that aren't willing to actually show up and teach and provide a good product, there's the ones that we're going to have to let go of. You know, the schools have to come along, but also I think we need to get back into the minds of the students the idea that they need to compete as well. Because if you're just going to like sit around in your room with your Nerf gun reading comic books while you've got a picture of yourself in front of your web camera, that's not good enough, right? The students need to compete to get into the better schools. The schools need to compete with each other to get the better students. Everybody wins. And the people who aren't willing to basically participate in the process of educating people, they lose, and they deserve to lose. Maybe we'll send them to that island with all the lawless people when they can't afford to pay their bills. I don't know.
And hopefully such measures would lead to better screening of people who are put in these positions of trust. Because, you know, back when I was a kid, I would trust any teacher implicitly. Like I was a kid. I had this understanding that they're here. There must have been other adults who said, including my parents, who say these people are to be trusted. Today, from the sheer volume of stories that I read about them, I don't know. Like I wouldn't trust them with my hypothetical child.
No, these people
just seems
are
like
just
it's
terrible.
so rotten.
These people are terrible, and I need a palate cleanser. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Palate cleanser.
Yay.
Oh boy.
So this person basically decided to be a decent human being and help this old lady. Look at this. This guy is a
I saw
champ.
that. I saw this. This is excellent.
Look at this guy.
I can do something good. I have a chance to do something good, and I'm going to do it.
That's
oh my
right.
god,
This
that's
is
so
so
nice.
Here we go.
Aww.
Oh, that's so nice.
That made me happy.
That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, because we have all different kinds of palate cleansers here. Right. So we've got
Where in
that
Europe
one.
is that?
You know what the only problem with that is? You know what it is.
Now
Guys
she's
not
always
doing
going
the
to want
slap
help.
squat.
No, that's a cis white male.
That's true. But she was an old white woman, and they're terrible too.
I know.
Yeah. So
They're
what
problem.
about
White people, am I right?
what about this?
Oh dear God.
What's
Somebody pole dancing wearing a Tyrannosaurus.
Oh, I love it. This is fantastic.
I've silenced the music because just imagine. I used to think this was a waste of time, but this really makes me feel
I
like
love
maybe
those
pole
T-Rex
dancing is a good thing.
costumes. They make me so happy every time I see them.
And people are just throwing bills on the stage. I mean, like the crowd's really getting into it. You can only see so many young women with daddy issues before something like this is a nice palate cleanser at the club, I guess.
Yeah.
Nope.
Whee! Oh,
Okay.
that's excellent.
All right, enough of that.
With high heels on.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it so much.
A Tyrannosaurus Rex in heels.
I
I can die a happy man.
love that. Okay, well, the jocularity continues. According to Bill O'Reilly, Hillary Clinton really wants to face Trump for a rematch in 2024. I'm not really sure there's much that we need to say about this. I think this is one of these things that Norm Macdonald would call a perfect joke, where the setup is the punchline.
Right, exactly. It's the most efficient joke on earth.
Yeah. Anybody want to comment on this before we move on to the next
Why
thing?
are we just repeating the story of the previous video?
Huh?
Who?
The chorus.
I was calling Hillary Clinton a pole dancing Tyrannosaurus.
Oh, T-Rex.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
I gotcha.
Never mind.
Don't
Yeah.
taint
In my
that
own messed up
dinosaur.
mind, that worked.
Sorry if I wasn't multitasking.
I
Let's-
would love to see them face each other in 2024 in a ring. You know how YouTubers are all like boxing each other? Like there was that TikTok versus YouTuber boxing match.
like
They should do
like a
that.
Jake Paul thing. You want to see
Yeah,
Jake Paul get his clock cleaned?
pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Get them both in the ring. You know,
we
best
can
2
only
out of
hope.
3.
All right. Well, I'm going to skip the Supreme Court vaccine mandate thing because I don't care.
I think it's
and
kind of wishful thinking on Bill O'Reilly's part.
let's see.
I don't think Hillary
what's the-
Clinton actually cares who she faces. She just wants to be president.
And she
Period.
just wants to be relevant. First of all, she'd love to be president. Speaking
Yes.
of wanting to be president, Democrat Tulsi
Oh,
Gabbard,
really?
Biden doing the exact opposite of what he promised must not go unchecked. Does this feel a lot like a campaign statement to you?
Yes.
Because it
Yeah.
sure
It
feels
does.
like she's campaigning to me.
I'm a Democrat who could get a whole bunch of Republican votes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what she
Especially
thinks.
with that particular photo underneath that headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
wonder,
a
do I-
veteran. I love the flag, and I want to grab your guns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's
Pay
not
attention to
your
the
weapons,
asterisks.
too.
Yeah. Pay
Yeah.
attention to the asterisks. They're very important. Very
It's
good,
the
Harry.
gun show. All right. Did you guys want to talk about Canada? Does anybody want to talk about Canada?
Oh, this was actually interesting.
Yeah, Trudeau Liberals no longer care about Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I, quite being the asshole that I am, as I've said this before, and it kind of annoys you, Functional, I know, Canada's Human Rights Charter is meaningless because it's always struck me as an American as sort of, well, you know, if it's convenient and we get around to it, we feel like it, you can have some human rights.
Oh.
I don't get it as an
problem with
American.
it, Harry. What is the problem with it, Harry? You know the answer to this.
I
The
think
problem
ours is a
is
little
that-
more binding.
Well, no. Well, it is, and that's part of the reason why.
But he wants the reason.
Here's the reason. Here's the reason why the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms doesn't have the power that the rights that are guaranteed by our Constitution are. In Canada, the rights are granted by the Crown. The rights come from the government. They are not naturally endowed in people, either by a creator or just naturally, inherent in the humanness of a person. These rights come from the from the state, and that implies that the state has discretionary control over the extent of those freedoms, whereas ours are supposed to be essentially absolute freedoms, freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and that sort of thing. Those things are in the United States philosophically considered to be inherent rights, natural rights, as opposed to rights that descend from the government, which imply the control of the government over those rights.
I even know the name of the clause that they use to basically take these rights away from you when it's convenient. It's called the Notwithstanding Clause. And it says here,
who set it up?
it
and
says here
used it?
basically, you can have all of these rights and freedoms, notwithstanding our desire to not give them to you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
I mean,
Trudeau.
Yeah. Was it
That's
Pierre that did
Pierre.
that?
Pierre, yeah, he used it too.
Yeah.
At the FLQ crisis.
I really, really like your country.
Section
I've been
33.
to British Columbia, but I don't want to live there. I really don't. It's bad enough living in California, but Canada is like even more dystopians in some ways.
They don't know we exist. It's fine. We're so
Yeah.
far
Well-
out here that
Well,
they
let me
forget
just
we're a part of
read you-
Canada.
Let me
On the
read you
left,
just
guys.
a little bit about the Notwithstanding Clause. The Notwithstanding Clause reflects the hybrid character of Canadian political institutions. In fact, it protects the British tradition of parliamentary supremacy under the American-style system of written constitutional rights and strong courts introduced in 1982. Former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien also described it as a tool that could guard against a Supreme Court ruling legalizing hate speech and child pornography as freedom of expression. And the idea for the clause was proposed by Peter Lougheed, as suggested by Merv Leach. The clause was a compromise reached during the debate over the new constitution in the early 1980s. Among the province's major complaints with the charter was its effect of shifting power from elected officials to the judiciary, giving the courts the final word. Section 33, in conjunction with the limitations clause in Section 1, was intended to give provincial legislators more leverage to pass law. Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau at first strongly objected to the clause, but eventually consented to its inclusion under pressure from the provincial premiers. So that's kind of an interesting note on that.
Yeah.
And even the people who pushed for those clauses have come out in with some two of them have come out and saying that the things that the current regimes have been using it for were not the intended purpose. Obviously, it's high debate when does freedom of speech end, and some people use the old colloquial, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, under the American Constitution, you can. You certainly can. That's free speech, and that's what some free speech, absolutists would fight for. And the spirit of this notwithstanding clause was more not that, but if you did it, and by causing a panic, somebody was trampled and then killed, then you could be held responsible. That was the spirit. The inaction of it by power-hungry despots use it to say, oh, well, you can't say that because that's defamatory or that's hurtful or that, you know what? I'm just going to stop using euphemisms and just say, I don't like it, so I'm going to censor you. And that's
Jordan Peterson covered this, didn't he? He was talking about, it's not about the letter of this law or how you think it's going to be applied. It's about how it will be applied. It's what this compelled speech will turn into. Slippery slope arguments may not be logically valid, but they sure seem to hold up well.
And we know how politics works. There's only so much some people, and even less so up here than compared to you guys down there. There's only so much an elected official, elected headman can actually get done. So again, Pierre has come out and said, he was hoping that this would have evolved, but it's been stagnant for the last 40 years, almost 40 years. It's sort of just been left at the wayside and just been like, yeah, okay, well, whatever. And again, in his mind, he said, we would hopefully like expand this and put in ratifications like a American style. No, speech is absolute, personal safety is absolute, et cetera, and make these things more less analogous and more solidified, codified in law, saying, no, these are inherent human rights. You cannot infringe on them. Done. But obviously it hasn't gone that far, and sad to say it, but it's also funny because like it took them that long in my lifetime for them to sign even a document that even represents the holy American documents. Like, it made me so proud as a child, many years after this happened, going, oh, hey, I didn't know that. That's awesome that we are progressive in the right ways. But obviously things have been taken advantage of.
It's interesting. It's not, the override isn't used that much. 3 provinces have used the power of override. Saskatchewan used it to force provincial employees to work and to allow the government to pay for non-Catholics to attend Catholic school. Quebec used it to allow the government to restrict language of signage and to prevent public employees from wearing religious symbols.
Yeah.
Neither of the usages were renewed, and they each therefore expired after 5 years. Quebec has introduced new legislation that invokes the override and may still come into effect in later in 2022. Ontario used it to increase the time period during which third-party groups must limit their activities in the lead up to an election. 4 jurisdictions, Yukon, Alberta, Ontario, and New Brunswick, have introduced bills that invoke the override but never came into effect for various reasons. So they were thinking about using it but bailed for whatever reason. So, and the rest of the federal government actually has never used it. Federal governments never used the override. It's only the provincial governments that have used it. That's why Trudeau hates the shit out of it.
Well,
He hates anything that gives the provinces any power, I think.
I hate all of this negative stuff. I need another palate cleanser. Is everybody ready?
Hurry. Yes.
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 Oh yeah.
Yes.
I would do that. I would do that. I'm 70 years old and I would do that.
Yes.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Wait,
Wait
yep,
for
there
it.
he goes.
Yes.
Whee! Yeah.
What happens when you give country people a backhoe?
I was just going to say that either happened in Arkansas, Missouri, or West Virginia.
Oh.
We haven't done
Oh,
exactly
gosh.
that in West Virginia, but we have taken, those really big industrial slippery, it's almost like garbage bag material, but it's like industrial garbage bags.
Yeah, I know what it is. Yeah.
We have literally a very tall hill, rolled those down a hill, put hoses at the top, and then just slid all the way.
Slip and slide. Woo!
Screw slip and slide. We ain't paying for that shit.
It's a lot easier unrolling them than re-rolling them too. But anyway,
They never got
which I know
re-rolled, but anyway.
I know that you did. But hey, just as a verbal palate cleanser, I'd like to share with you a story from my wife's youth. This is how they amused themselves when they were kids. When my wife was like in junior high, they had an older, I guess it was her cousin, maybe it was her uncle. Anyway, would drive this beat up old pickup truck, and they'd go down to the dump and they'd find a couch that somebody had dumped in the dump. They would hook chains to it. The kids would all pile on the couch, and then the uncle would drive the pickup down the street with the couch merrily bumping on the road behind them. They called it couch sledding. And
that sounds fun.
That was they said they always liked it when they came on a sleeper couch because those held up longer. They disintegrated less quickly than the regular couches because they had metal frames in them.
Mm-hmm.
True story.
Sounds like Russia. If just throw in vodka and it's basically and the couch being on fire and basically it's Russia.
You're not wrong.
Man, I gotta tell you that I can spend so much time just watching Russian dash cam videos.
Oh Lord,
I've done that too.
the slow speed collisions where the car will be at a stop and some babushka will just sort of come up and kind of throw herself on the hood.
Oh, there's one out of
does he?
There's one out of China where literally a woman comes out of the store too soon and falls on the ground like she's been hit by the car, but the car has a dash cam.
Yeah.
She just keeps getting back up and throwing herself on the ground.
Oh yeah, she's
like,
trying to back up, but she's like pretending that I'm being hit.
Yeah, and he's like, lady, I have a dash cam.
So Serenity, we talked about this a little bit before the show. And so there's two, well, basically there's the changing demographics in South America, right? And so there's this article in the Wall Street Journal, and I forget who posted it, probably Geodes, because he has a subscription to the Wall Street Journal and I don't.
Yeah, I was about to say it's probably Geodes.
So I had to go find some place that wasn't behind a paywall to get this. And they were talking about Pope Francis is losing Latin American Catholics. Well, when I was trying to find an alternate article, I stumbled across this much longer piece in Quartz called Why the Catholic Church is Losing Latin America and How It's Trying to Get It Back. And this is from 2015.
Yeah.
So this article reads almost exactly the same as what I've been able to determine from the Wall Street Journal thing, meaning This problem has existed for a while. It's not particularly new. 7 years have gone by, and the trend is still the same as it's always been. Catholics are going down, and Pentecostals in particular, Protestants, are going up. I guess they've been very, very good at recruiting and changing hearts and minds with the Pentecostals. You were going to tell me something about this, I think.
Well, so it's a couple different things. Like even though with my heritage, I am in a Bible Belt state, so I have a lot of friends who are Baptists, Pentecostal, stuff like that, Protestants, everything. Very few Catholics around here, and from what I've been told by them, and it seems to be backed up by this article because a lot of them do like the charity stuff when they go down there, like they'll build schools and stuff like that, and they'll help people and they'll run clinics and stuff like that.
Well, are we talking about the Protestants or the Catholics now?
The Protestants, sorry, the non-Catholics. Okay. We're just going to go non-Catholic.
The Protestant outreach are doing charitable things with a big splash. Okay.
Well, it's like it wasn't that article or the other one. There was another one that I read where they basically took some anecdotal evidence from a woman who was a former prostitute in Brazil. And she basically talked about the fact that she didn't feel judged. And because she didn't feel judged for it, she was able to get help and she was able to get out of that life. And she, at least what the article said, she had been a year out of that life. And the consensus seems to be a lot that the Catholic Church isn't seen as doing anything to help these people. But they see the Protestants, everyone who's not Catholic, running food drives to help feed underprivileged families, for running after school programs to help kids learn math or whatever, to teaching them how to do skills, running clothing drives. This way they can get at least decent clothes to go for a job interview. The Catholic Church is, as I told you in the side chat, everyone at this point knows the greed of the Catholic Church. Everybody knows it, or at least has an inkling of it. And they can't play stupid anymore of like, oh, we don't have the money, we can't help you, you're screwed. So
you're literally wearing gold shoes, old man.
Yeah, you're wearing Valentino one-of-a-kind red leather slippers, bite me. So it's one of those things, because they can't hide behind the anonymity of before social media, everybody knows they have money and they know they're not doing anything to help. That on top of the thing that former Prince Andrew is also getting accused of, which I will not say the word in case we get struck. The diddling. That also, especially with the stuff that has come to light thanks to people around the world finally going, hey, you can't just, in the words of Robin Williams, spin them around, move them here, move them there. So it's a lot of just, they have the diddling charges, they have the fact that everybody knows they have a lot of money and they're not doing anything to actually help people. And you have people who in many cases come from maybe just a step up socioeconomically. They don't even have a lot of money themselves, but they have more than other people, so they give what they can. And even if they can't give a physical thing, they give their time. That is a lot more, basically, it brings a lot more people in because it makes you realize, oh, I don't need money to make a difference.
Well, it's not just parishioners; it's also the priests and things. The Catholics
they're a lot
have
more
had
personable.
have had an uphill time recruiting for a while, right? So there's the stigma of people looking at all Catholic priests as if they're potential kitty diddlers. That's one thing, but mostly the whole thing about the celibacy thing is actually still a big issue. Yep. It annoys them when Anglicans and Episcopalians convert and bring their spouses with them. Mm-hmm. That's a real problem. There's a picture here. Let's see, not that picture. Go away. Not that picture.
I think the music.
This picture. This is beautiful. Now this is outreach. This is how you win hearts and minds.
Oh my god. That's beautiful.
That's creepy. That thing in the background behind her. That's creepy.
But the Catholics have a huge optics problem. You know, it's hard to basically get the hip people to want to become ministers, priests, whatever terminology. I'm sorry I couldn't get a South American Catholic to come in here and help us understand this. But you've got the people being disaffected. They're getting basically more in terms of service as a congregation, I guess, from the Protestants down there, right?
Mhm.
They have a prosperity gospel, which is really more about, which at least allows sort of individuals to kind of like not feel guilty about aspiring to personally profit, to personally become wealthy, right? There's a lot going on here, and it's hard for me to really digest it all. But I think about this again, like you're West Virginian, I'm a Californian. It wasn't that many years ago that Proposition 8, which would have legalized gay marriage in California, got its ass kicked. Like 60-something% said no. And the reason that happened was because Latin people who had moved to California and become citizens all said, nah, I don't feel good about this. So the changing demographics of South America actually impact the United States because there's so much immigration. So this may seem like a thing that we don't need to care about, but I think we actually kind of do.
Well, it's also so God rest her soul, Mother Teresa. She had some possible beliefs that don't also translate very well, like not necessarily the poor deserved it, but to celebrate poverty, it was a weird thing. It was a weird mentality. And that's shared by some of the older, but more like the ground level people in the Catholic Church. So it's basically, we're not going to help you because of the fact that because you're poor and this is God's will. I'm not saying that was what the Catholic Church overall believes. I'm saying that these people have hurt the appearance of the Catholic Church by having that belief, which was an older belief.
Yeah, Christopher Hitchens made this point in his book about Mother Teresa called The Missionary Position. He was a lot more brutal about it than you're being.
I'm trying to be kind.
but it's basically about saying that suffering on earth is like a holy thing. And it's the deliverance of sin and the afterlife that you should focus on. And it's awfully convenient when you can tell suffering people that they should just be happy. Stop your whining. When you're dead, it'll all be fine. They're half right about that.
On some
when you're
level,
dead, it will not be an issue anymore.
Yeah, it won't be an issue anymore. but that's also kind of because if you look at South America, several of the countries are having major issues, and we're not going to go into their whole socioeconomic stuff and all that kind of.
We don't have the time.
No one has the time. No one.
We could spend months. What we're talking about would be a perfectly good PhD thesis for somebody, right? I mean, that's the amount of this stuff. I only have to care because, first of all, I care about people a little bit. I probably shouldn't. But at the same time, it really, like I said, it affects us because a lot of these people are moving here. And whatever happens there is going to matter to us in 10 or 15 years if we're still alive.
But it's just, to be completely honest, most non-Catholic churches who are of the Christian faith except for maybe Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, are a lot more welcoming. Like, as long as you're kind of there to be with them and like talk to them and you don't treat them like dirt, they are absolutely open and welcome to you, most of them. Which also helps in this situation because, think like, at least in my area, most of the homeless shelters around here are not run by the few Catholic churches we have. Most of them are run by the Baptist and the Protestant and all those kind of churches. So
that's because they drove all the Papists out of West Virginia.
Basically. Going to make a comment, but I'm going to stop. But it is that kind of thing of like, and it doesn't feel as predatory as, say, the Jehovah's Witness sect is very predatory. They intentionally build in very poor income places and do basically the whole you're meant to suffer on this world so that you can pay for it after death, and so this way everything's already paid after death and blah blah blah. So they're not even. But
it's more than just that. The Jehovah's Witnesses, if you look up basically attributes of cults. Look at some of the things that they do in terms of isolating people from their pre-existing support structures.
Scientology.
There's a lot of stuff that's very cult-ish about some parts of some of the Jehovah's Witnesses. So to my mind, if you have to censor information or restrict the flow of information, to convince somebody of something, your argument is invalid.
Yeah,
and
that's the
anytime
thing
I
that-
see somebody doing that, whether it's no matter what it is, I'm immediately suspicious. And I mean, I know people who are Jehovah's Witnesses, not super well, but I know them well enough to know about people step out of line and they basically, your family just kicks you out. This is like what a cult does, not what a religion does.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, around here, like, a lot of the Baptist churches and a lot of the other churches are kind of going the way of worship, in the sense of, as we've all seen, I think most of us have seen, like, the videos and stuff like that where people have their hand raised and there's songs being sung, but they're not hymns, that kind of stuff. And that's a lot more open to people, like what she's doing. But she...
Well, actually, a lot of Catholic services can be very demonstrative. This is a Catholic service.
Yeah, but I mean like the singing and the bands and like the pastor who kind of leads but doesn't browbeat you. Although I have gotten in arguments with some of them. But like it's a lot more of an open thing. Like you don't have to you can wear suits and ties if you want to. A lot of people wear jeans and just plain stuff. Like it's just a lot more open than Catholic Church is.
Well, it's more accessible.
It's
easy. It's easier for people to kind of snuggle up to it because it's just easier, right? You know, it's ever since they got Vatican II, you know, doing the Mass in the vernacular. It used to be, in the history of the Catholic Church, which obviously we don't have time to talk about, the use of doing things in Latin basically put the priest in a position between God and the worshiper, right?
Yeah.
You know, which allowed them to do things like, in exchange for donations, offer absolution. The confession gave them access to all kinds of information. There's all these things that they used to do. But the Catholic Church has tried to fix a lot of things. But they're really just held back by the fact that, like I said, they have a real recruiting problem getting new staff. And they have a real image problem because people don't trust them. They don't trust them about the money thing. They don't trust them about the kitty diddling. They don't trust them about a lot of stuff. If this trend continues and more people become Protestants / Pentecostals, and then those people move to the United States, how will that be different in terms of their, like, say, electoral behavior versus what it is now?
I think, honestly, they'll be more conservative in some cases.
I think they might be fiscally more conservative. I think a lot of the Catholic kind of lefty finance stuff might go away, but they might be socially more permissive.
Yeah, and the thing is like, that's basically what the Republican Party is kind of turned into. I can't remember the study, but it basically said that, well, not the Republican Party, like America as a whole, when it comes to like social issues, they're a lot more open. When it comes to money, a lot more people are becoming fiscally reserved and kind of conservative with stuff. And that's kind of doing what America is already kind of doing. So I think it'll affect some things, but I don't think it's going to affect, because there's also the whole fact that you have to take into consideration that a lot of these people are coming from countries that have gone socialist and have failed.
Well, the Democrats are losing a lot of support in the Latin community, and not just the Cuban Latin community, but I mean in general. They want to think it's just the Cuban.
They want to believe it's just the Cuban, but they refuse to acknowledge the fact it's not. But that's kind of the stuff that's happening, is that I think as they kind of come up here, I know it's the fear, and I'm going slightly off tangent on this, but it's like, I know it's the fear of a lot of people that a lot of these illegal immigrants that are coming are going to vote Democrat. But when you think about where they ran from, I don't think as many of them are going to vote Democrat as people think they're going to do, if they even vote, because I don't think a lot of them even vote that much. But it's that whole thing of like, there has to be the acceptance of, like, the reason why Catholic Church opened to gay marriage and the acknowledgement of homosexuality was because the other churches had already done it, and they got scared because they started losing people. And there are still people who even in the non-Catholic churches do not believe in gay marriage, which is fine. You are absolutely allowed to do that. Go for it. But the churches still say, we will not turn away anyone who's gay. Some of us will even we'll do the ceremonies and all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those things of, I think the Catholic Church is going to keep trying to play catch up. And then, I mean, in all seriousness, I think it's going to be a very slow implosion, but they're going to implode it on themselves because they can't afford to keep doing what they're doing. They can't. The money runs out eventually every time.
I just hope I live long enough to see what ends up happening. Makes me feel good about all that time I spent on the Bowflex today. Man, I'm in pain. Okay. So, aging gracefully is a pain in the ass. Okay. So, Sora, did you get a chance to look at the goldfish thing?
Hello.
Yes.
A little bit, yes.
Because it's basically Project Pigeon 2.0.
Yeah.
For people who don't remember, can you give like a 30-second recap of what Project Pigeon was?
Mm-hmm. So, trying to use pigeons as homing devices for bombs in an attempt to improve accuracy in things that go boom during the Second World War.
They basically trained the pigeons,
and then
to
later
peck
on
at a
in the
thing on a
Cold War,
screen, right? So essentially, by pecking, they trained them to peck at images of ships, and so the idea is you drop bombs
as a guiding missile,
and it would give the pigeon
who
would guide
ran
it.
that? You know who ran that experiment was B.F. Skinner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think B.F. Skinner would love this. Israeli scientists have trained goldfish to drive. A goldfish swimming in a square tank on wheels as it rolls deliberately from one side of a room to the other.
Israel is great, isn't it?
Isn't it?
It's just, I love that little country. I can't help it. They beat the shit out of surly bullies and they share their bounty with the world. And even when it's a goldfish driving.
And it's how the study is written too. I just love this. They quote this in the article. It goes without saying that fish in general are not naturally equipped to explore terrestrial environments.
Thank you, no shit, Sherlock.
I know.
And so we were given money to change that.
Yeah, it shows that goldfish have the cognitive ability to learn a complex task in an environment completely unlike the one they evolved in. Excuse me. Yeah, this is actually pretty amazing. There was a story that I think we covered. I don't think we had to skip it, where just a clump of brain cells. It was much faster, easier to teach it to play Pong than like an AI algorithm. You had to basically throw lots and lots and lots of games of Pong at an AI before it got to be reasonably good at it. But a clump of biological cells, a neural network picks it up right away. That's one of the differences between life and AI.
They have a quick clip of a fish operated vehicle further down below. Oh, you bring it up, yeah? I just love it so much.
Jesus.
It shows you how it works. Look at him go.
He's like, I'm free.
I'm gonna make a run. Make a run.
This is who Israel is going to send them all.
Come on, fins, do your stuff.
Oh, that would be interesting, though, if you could somehow get a fish to survive the trip. Or at least
now that's gain of function. That's gain of function.
That's real gain of function.
Oh, God. First level of life on Mars is goldfish.
Woo-hoo!
So as we run out of time, God, let's see. We can table functional. Are you going to be sad if we don't talk about Babylon 5?
Yes.
Okay, then talk about Babylon 5. We'll go over slightly. Because we're definitely having penis news. I'm just saying that.
What do you want me to say about Babylon 5?
What about this reboot? What the hell? Yeah. Babylon 5 CW reboot.
Didn't we talk about how the CW is kind of
cancer?
I think we mentioned it.
Well, we managed that they're trying to put themselves up for sale.
Yeah. And well, the thing is that the creator J. Michael Straczynski, who created the original Babylon 5, was pitching a new reboot and he made a deal with the CW. He's actually finished the pilot and everything, and it's scheduled to launch later this year. I want to say, I forget, but that's cool for anybody who was a fan of the show back in the day, and the pilot will be a good indication. Hey, is this going to be something worth watching, whether or not it goes through or not, or does it look like it's going to follow the trends of other rebooted content that have turned to pure garbage?
Well, okay, so is this the purpose of this article? Is that supposedly season 2's already been approved of this show we haven't seen season 1 of, and supposedly
doesn't even have the money.
it says the cast revealed so far are these people. Now, are you shitting me? You're telling me that they got Chris Pratt to play Sheridan? Is this actually true?
No.
This seems far-fetched to me.
I think that's
this seems like a fan. Well, I think this is the article you linked, right? With fake chess master Anna Taylor-Joy. I mean, she looks like she's got
seeing
alien
this.
DNA. Some dude playing Lanier, Jack Black as Veer and Orlando. This seems. I don't see any of this happening.
I don't.
That's why I'm curious about this article.
Seeing that casting.
Very sad and important.
The guy with the beard is the lesbian.
So this feels like we're being punked. I don't know. What is it?
Go with punked.
A few snippets about the new show's cast were also revealed, hinting at a change in course for the reboot. Previous announcements, including Mark Wahlberg in the leading role and Melissa McCarthy in multiple supporting roles.
Yeah, I
seem now to be outdated. This seems like one of those. I don't trust this article, man. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think that this is the one that I intended to link to you.
Then I can't blame you. Okay.
This does seem like complete and utter parody. But what I said about the show, because the pilot has been finished, they haven't released the cast, and I think the entire first season is still greenlit.
All right, I'm going to make you a deal. When you find out who the cast is and we've got a credible source, you let me know and we'll bring this back up. Because to my mind, unless I know who's in the cast, if I don't get a sense of that, I don't even know if it's worth talking about this thing. If they bring some big names in,
that's
it's
probably
pretty
how
cool.
long ago I linked it to you too.
All right, so penis news.
I apologize. Let's get on to the penis.
That's all right. Oh gosh, I didn't.
Finally, the stuff that's.
Let's see. I have to actually go
into
news
that
chat.
Really matters to the
go
common
into my
man
chat with Sora
and woman.
Oh Lord.
Because you were saying something like, should we talk about, or do you want to talk about, was it sperm theft?
Sperm theft, yes.
And then I heard about this on the news. Drake puts hot sauce in condoms to prevent sperm theft model claims.
Which I don't blame him.
That's where my question came from, yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us about this? Because it's going to sound way worse if I describe it.
Okay, so basically... he hooks up with some chickie boo who's an Instagram model.
First mistake.
Well, he's Drake.
Yeah, I know.
There's not much taste there to begin with. So, he goes, does his thing after their little rendezvous, and she decides, well, yay, now I'm going to get a baby daddy. So she goes and she, according to everything, this is what she's claiming. This is not words put into her mouth. It's what she's saying she did. She goes into the bathroom, finds the used condom, unties it, and is prepared to pour it into her vagina to get pregnant. And then starts screaming bloody murder because there's hot sauce in there, which he supposedly uses to kill the sperm.
Smart man.
And of course, there's now hot sauce where hot sauce should not be. And so actually, my coworker and I were we got way too into this at work. We're like, oh my God, this is so interesting. What would you call that? And I'm like, it has to be some sort of fraud, right? And she's like, yeah, because like what else could it be? Because she's not supposed to anyway. So that spiraled down into looking up what it is. And apparently sperm theft is a thing. It has its own Wikipedia page. There's actual legal precedent in many countries discussing this topic, which tends to be under either fraud or a breach of contract. You'd find it under that because, or very consent issue is people are attempting to put it under a consent issue thing, which is of course not working very well because it's guys' rights, right? Men's rights. So of course they're not going to go for it. And it's the topic of whether or not someone using sperm that was you are engaged in a sexual activity, except that at no point was it agreed upon that someone's going to get pregnant or attempt to get pregnant from that encounter. So I thought it was very, very interesting. And also found out from that too, and I don't know if you want to discuss this, but it's very disturbing. Posthumanous sperm extraction is a thing.
Yep.
Which, by the way, it's not illegal or legal really in the States. It's sort of a case-by-case basis depending on the hospital.
I remember I found that out about it because of a Law and Order episode. They actually have a device that goes somewhere.
There's multiple ways to stimulate areas, including using a little bit of electricity.
I love the fact that Minions sounds like an infomercial right now.
Just gotta put that right up there.
Now, going back to the fun thing, I think, like, screw you, lady. Like,
yeah,
what the
really.
hell?
I hope you got
if just in this case too. If you are a famous person or ever become a famous person, I don't know. You've signed up. This is what your life is going to be.
It's sad.
I have some biology for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, the average pH, the negative log of the hydrogen ion concentration, aka acidity of the female canal, is between 7.2 and 8, which is a little on the basic side. The average, in order to make hot sauce, you have to have a much more acidic pH of 4.6 or greater in order to kill a guy called Clostridium botulinum, where we get the botulism. That's where that name comes from. Clostridium botulinum is an anaerobic bacteria that grows inside bottled things that aren't acidic enough and where improper sanitation is used. So you would expect the introduction of hot sauce to the vaginal canal to really acidify that environment, and in doing so, it would oxidize some of the tissues. It literally would burn you from the inside out. It would be a horrible experience. I just felt like you ought to know that. Science.
It's like, those tissues are not designed for that sort of thing. But if we think about this for a moment, so he knows there are women out there who would like to seal the deal by having him be their baby dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So he hooks up with some Instagram model. They do the deed. He ties a knot in the condom after putting some hot sauce in, allegedly, and then she goes and fishes that out of the trash. Now, he could have just as easily decided, I don't give a crap about your system, your sewer system in this hotel. I'm just going to flush it. He could have just flushed it. If all he wanted to do was prevent her from getting access to his seed, he could have just flushed it. But instead, I think he kind of wanted to send a message. And that message was, Drake is not a fool for just anybody. And if you play with fire, you're going to get burned, something along those lines. Because this feels kind of
In
vindictive.
2 months, his line of brand of hot sauce is going to come out. All this advertising.
And he'll just go, "Oh, it was just testing. I don't know what your problem is, lady."
The thing is, he has a kid from basically an encounter probably very similar to what happened here.
I think
Where he wasn't careful because I had to do the celebrity trash deep dive
Yep.
on him. So because usually I'm like, I don't like him, but you kind of fall down that down that rabbit hole, right? And he only met the mother of his son like twice before, and then found out, oh, I'm pregnant, it's yours, and here's the baby. So
well, he got told to put hot sauce in the condom by, I think, a famous basketball player or something like that, because apparently he does it. And I'm like, guys, you know how you don't have to do that? Stop having sex with just any random chickie who wobbles her tits in front of you. Like
that your solution to the problem is not fit for purpose based on their criteria.
Apparently.
Yeah.
What's the point in being?
That's like
saying
saying telling a bulimic not to eat. I mean that's.
Or no, it's like telling an asthmatic to just stop breathing.
Mm.
You won't have those lung problems if you just stop breathing.
Have you ever considered like not wheezing?
Yeah.
Have you ever considered not being a whore? How's that would work for you?
Oh,
No, I think that idea was already discarded. I was doing a search because I wanted to see if he'd ever been on Hot Ones, the thing where they eat the hot wings with the hot sauce.
Yeah.
And stumbled across this from 2013. Drake's lyrics finally make it onto Taco Bell hot sauce packets. Just saying. Just saying.
That's the
Oh
hot
my
sauce
God.
he used.
So wrong.
There's a synergy here that it's kind of
so
hard
now we
to
know
deny.
which hot sauce packets.
Yeah, I
he
know.
takes with him.
No.
Which
This-
makes
this
it
is
worse because it's got loaded with toxins.
This is what Rome
Hip-hop
was like about 450 AD. This was just about like this.
Yeah.
if I
Well, speaking
remember
of things that have to come to an end, we are out of time. If we're going to stick with the 2-hour thing.
Just like the Roman Empire.
Harry's going to kill us all.
Oh, no, just one at a time, slowly.
Oh,
I still
not
need some
not
of
a
you.
final end, just until next time. Okay.
Yeah. So does anybody have any final thoughts about Drake or Goldfish or...
Don't fall for the thoughties. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, risk reward behavior.
Just remember.
You got that whole hot versus crazy scale. I don't know if you've seen that. That's in the Bro Bible. It is codified in law. The highest law in the land, the Bro Law. Yeah, I got it.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to give the advice. It's my official position, maybe not Minions of the Zoo, but my official position is do not put your penis inside crazy and or stupid women. And if they're both, just don't.
Just don't. How hard is that?
Yeah,
standards.
Really,
they're a good thing.
Yeah, truly. Absolutely.
Just find
All
where
right.
Leonardo DiCaprio is discarded and go after her because she at least knows the deal. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up like Drake would. And good night. The zoo is closed.
Good night, everybody.